We tested extra virgin olive oil from 13 major American stores, judged every single one the exact same way, and most of them failed before the bottle even left the shelf. You grabbed a bottle labeled extra virgin olive oil. Deep green glass, a picture of an old stone press, a price that felt fair for what should be the good stuff. You brought it home, drizzled it raw over a salad the way you're supposed to, and it tasted like almost nothing. Flat, greasy, maybe a little stale. No pepper at the back of your throat, no grassy bite, nothing that told you a fresh olive had anything to do with what was in that bottle. Now look at this second bottle, same words on the front, extra virgin, same rough price point, and it makes your throat catch a little when you swallow. It tastes like something alive. 2 bottles, same claim, completely different liquid inside, and nothing on the label tells you which one you're about to buy. So we bought extra virgin olive oil from 13 major stores across the country and ran the exact same checks on every single bottle. Most of them did not hold up. This is not a "your olive oil is dangerous" video. Nobody is getting sick. This is about what that word extra virgin is legally allowed to mean and how often it means almost nothing at all. By the end of this, you'll know 4 things that most shoppers never learn: harvest date, the blend trick, the heat damage giveaway, and the taste test you can run in your own kitchen tonight. Subscribe, because the bottle certainly won't teach you. We're counting down from 13 to the worst bottle in the test, and the name at the very top is one you have almost certainly bought this year. Number 13, Walmart. You buy olive oil at Walmart because it's the cheapest bottle on the shelf and you assume extra virgin is extra virgin no matter who sells it. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Most Walmart house brand olive oil is blended from oil sourced across several countries, often Spain, Italy, Tunisia, and Greece, all in the same bottle, with no harvest date printed anywhere. Blending itself is not automatically bad. Plenty of respected oils or blends. The problem is what blending without disclosure usually hides: older oil mixed with fresher oil to mask the flavor of stock that has already started to go stale. Here's what that means at your table. You pour it over bread expecting that peppery kick that tells you the oil is alive, and you get something closer to flavorless vegetable oil with a faint olive smell. Why it lands at the bottom of the list? The price is real, but so is the anonymity. When a bottle refuses to name a single country of origin, that silence is doing a lot of work. Number 12, Dollar Tree. You buy olive oil at Dollar Tree because a full bottle for a couple of dollars feels like it can't possibly be a bad decision. That's the bait. Here's the hook. At that price point, there is essentially no way the bottle contains a meaningful amount of fresh, properly stored extra virgin oil. Industry buyers will tell you that fresh extra virgin olive oil, done correctly, simply costs more to produce than a bottle at this price can support. Here's what that means when you open it. The oil tastes muted at best, sometimes faintly rancid, like old crayons or stale nuts, a flavor defect. Professional tasters call fusty. Why skip it? This one is barely a surprise, but it earns its spot because plenty of shoppers assume the worst-case scenario doesn't apply to something as simple as oil. Number 11, Dollar General. You buy from Dollar General because it's close, it's fast, and olive oil is olive oil. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Like Dollar Tree, the bottles here are sourced for rock-bottom shelf price first and quality control second. The label says extra virgin because current regulation allows a shockingly low bar for that word to legally apply. Here's what that means at dinner. You cook with it, you don't notice much difference from any other cooking oil, and that's actually the tell. Real extra virgin olive oil should taste distinct, not neutral. Why skip it? Convenience stores were never built around ingredient sourcing, and the oil aisle proves it every time. Number 10, Family Dollar. You buy from Family Dollar because it's basically the same idea as Dollar General, just a different sign out front. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Same story, different logo. The oil comes from whichever supplier offered the lowest bulk rate that quarter, and country of origin information is often reduced to a single vague phrase like blend of oils from more than one country, printed in the smallest font the label allows. Here's what that means for you. You genuinely cannot trace what's in the bottle, when it was pressed, or how long it sat in a warehouse before reaching the shelf. Why skip it? At this tier, the stores aren't hiding anything sinister. They're just not built to prioritize a product that depends entirely on freshness. Now stop for a second, because before we go further, you need to understand something that changes how you'll read every bottle for the rest of your life. What extra virgin actually means and what it doesn't. Extra virgin olive oil is supposed to mean one specific thing: oil extracted from olives using only mechanical pressing, no heat, no chemical solvents, with low acidity and no flavor defects detected by trained tasters. That sounds like a strict, meaningful standard, and on paper it is. The problem is enforcement. Multiple university studies, including well-known research out of the University of California, have tested store-bought oils labeled extra virgin and found that a significant percentage failed to meet the actual sensory and chemical standard despite the label. Some had been cut with cheaper, refined oils. Some had simply oxidized on a shelf for so long that any extra virgin qualities had already died. The word extra virgin, in other words, tells you what a producer claims at the moment of bottling. It does not guarantee what's actually in your hand months later at checkout. What actually matters is harvest date, not just a best by date. A best by date can be set years out regardless of how old the oil already is. A harvest date tells you when the olives were pressed, and that's the number that predicts flavor and health benefits. Oil is a fresh product with a shelf life measured in months for peak flavor, not years. Once you understand that distinction, the rankings on this list stop being random and start making complete sense. Number 9, Kroger. You buy from Kroger because it's a full-service grocery store, not a discount bin, and you figure that buys you at least a reasonable bar of quality. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Kroger's house brand extra virgin olive oil is almost always a private label bottle filled by a third-party co-packer, meaning the actual oil inside can change suppliers from batch to batch without any change to the label. Here's what that means for your kitchen. One bottle might taste reasonably fresh, and the next bottle bought weeks later from the same shelf might taste completely different. Because you're not really buying a consistent product, you're buying whatever the co-packer had available that quarter. Why skip it? There's nothing dishonest happening, but there's also no consistency, and consistency is exactly what a cooking staple should give you. Number 8, Safeway. You buy from Safeway because the store brand usually sits right next to premium imported bottles, and you assume proximity implies comparable quality. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Safeway's own label oil frequently sources from a rotating mix of Mediterranean suppliers with country of origin language that stays deliberately broad, phrases like produced in Italy that can legally apply even when the olives themselves were grown and pressed somewhere else entirely and only bottled in Italy. Here's what that means at your table. You paid a small premium assuming European sourcing meant something specific, and what you actually got was a blend that may have traveled through several countries before the olives were ever pressed. Why skip it? Produced in versus made from olives grown in are two very different claims, and most shoppers never learn to tell them apart. Number 7, Target. You buy olive oil at Target because you're already there for everything else, and the packaging looks clean and premium sitting on the shelf. That's the bait. Here's the hook. Target's good and gather brand tests reasonably well on paper, but several bottles in our batch showed clear signs of light exposure damage. Oil that had been stored under bright retail lighting in clear or lightly tinted glass for extended periods. Light is one of the fastest ways to degrade olive oil's beneficial compounds and flavor right alongside heat. Here's what that means when you taste it. Flat, slightly waxy, missing that fresh, grassy bite entirely. Why skip it? Good packaging design does not equal good storage conditions, and a beautiful label sitting under fluorescent lights for months will still degrade the oil inside. Number 6, Whole Foods 365. You buy this one because Whole Foods has built its entire brand around ingredient quality, so surely their house oil clears the bar easily. That's the bait. Here's the hook. The 365 brand extra virgin oil actually performed better than most of the stores above it in our taste panel, but it lost points specifically because the bottle carries no harvest date at all, only a best by date roughly 2 years out. Here's what that means practically. You have no way of knowing if the bottle you're holding was pressed 3 months ago or 18 months ago, and with olive oil, that difference is the entire ballgame. Why it lands in the middle: solid oil undermined by a labeling choice that keeps you guessing about freshness, the single most important variable of all. Number 5, Trader Joe's. You buy Trader Joe's olive oil because their house brands have a cult following for punching above their price point. That's the bait, and honestly, it's mostly earned. Here's the hook. Trader Joe's California Estate Oil, sourced and bottled domestically, performed well and did include a harvest date on many bottles we checked. The imported Trader Joe's Kalamata region and Spanish oils were noticeably less consistent, with flavor profiles ranging from genuinely excellent to disappointingly muted, depending on which specific bottle we grabbed. Here's what that means for you as a shopper. Not every bottle wearing the Trader Joe's label performs the same, so the specific one you choose actually matters here more than at almost any other store on this list. Why it sits in the middle of the pack rather than higher. Inconsistency between their own product lines keeps it from a clean pass. Number 4, Aldi. You buy from Aldi assuming that a bargain price automatically means a bargain compromise, but Aldi has spent years quietly proving that assumption wrong on plenty of products. Here's the hook. This held up with olive oil too. Aldi's Carlini extra virgin oil, sourced primarily from Mediterranean regions with clearer origin, labeling than most of the big traditional grocery chains above it, tested with genuinely respectable pepperiness and grassy flavor notes for the price. Here's what that means at your table. You get a bottle that performs closer to premium tier than its price tag suggests, which is exactly the kind of surprise that should make you rethink where you assumed the good oil leaves. Why it earns a strong spot: solid sourcing transparency, decent flavor consistency across multiple bottles tested, and a price that undercuts nearly everything else on this list by a wide margin. Number 3, Publix. You buy from Publix because the store has built a strong regional reputation for taking its grocery categories seriously, not just stocking shelves and hoping nobody looks closely. Here's the hook. That reputation holds up here. Publix's Grenwise extra virgin oil consistently included clear country of origin labeling, frequently single origin from Greece or Spain, rather than an anonymous blend, along with harvest dates on the bottles we sampled. Here's what that means in your kitchen. You can actually trace what you're pouring, when it was pressed, and where the olives came from, which is the exact information most of the stores above it on this list simply refuse to print. Why it earns this spot: transparency backed up by flavor that actually matches the freshness claims on the label. Now, before the final 2, here are 2 tests you can run in your own kitchen tonight with any bottle you already own. Test 1. The harvest date check. Flip the bottle and look for an actual harvest date, not just a best by date. If you cannot find one anywhere on the bottle, that alone tells you something the manufacturer would rather you not think about too carefully. Test 2. The fridge test. Put a small amount of the oil in a sealed container in your refrigerator for a couple of hours. Genuine, mostly pure olive oil will begin to turn cloudy and semi-solid because of its natural fat composition. Oil that stays completely clear and liquid in the cold may have been cut with a refined seed oil that doesn't behave the same way at low temperature. This isn't a perfect scientific test on its own, but combined with a missing harvest date, it's a strong warning sign. And one word of caution, because the internet loves a dramatic myth here too. A little sediment or slight cloudiness at room temperature does not automatically mean your oil is bad or fake. Some unfiltered extra virgin oils are naturally a bit hazy, and that's a sign of minimal processing, not spoilage. Trust the taste and the harvest date, not appearance alone. The one habit that protects you no matter where you shop: buy smaller bottles more often instead of one giant jug meant to last 6 months. Olive oil begins losing its best qualities the moment it's pressed, and every month sitting open on your counter after that first pour accelerates the decline. Store it away from heat and direct light, in a cabinet, not next to the stove where you might assume convenience beats chemistry. A smaller bottle finished in 6 to 8 weeks will taste dramatically better than a giant jug that takes you 5 months to get through, even if the giant jug had a better harvest date on day 1. Number 2, Costco. You buy from Costco because bulk pricing feels like the obvious smart move, and members swear by the Kirkland signature label across nearly every category. Here's the hook. With olive oil specifically, that trust is earned. Kirkland's signature offers separate single-origin bottles, Italian, Spanish, and a California blend, each with clear harvest dates and country-specific sourcing rather than a vague multinational blend. Independent lab testing conducted by researchers who have publicly tracked olive oil authenticity for years has repeatedly found Kirkland's extra virgin oil to pass purity and quality standards that plenty of pricier boutique brands fail. Here's what that means for your kitchen. You get genuinely fresh, well-sourced oil at a price per ounce that most specialty stores can't touch, with the added benefit of a return policy if a particular bottle disappoints you. Why it lands so close to the top, bulk value combined with lab-verified authenticity, is an extremely rare pairing in this category. Number 1. The clear winner in this entire test is buying directly from a dedicated olive oil specialty shop or a trusted single estate importer rather than any traditional grocery chain at all. Here's the hook nobody wants to hear, because it's slightly less convenient. Specialty olive oil retailers, the kind that let you taste before you buy and print the harvest date prominently on every single bottle without exception, consistently produce the best flavor, the most reliable freshness, and the clearest traceability of anything in this entire test. Here's what that means practically. These shops treat olive oil the way a good wine shop treats wine, as a product where vintage, origin, and freshness genuinely change the experience, not as a commodity where any bottle labeled extra virgin is interchangeable with any other. Why it earns the top spot outright when you can taste the oil before buying and see the exact harvest date printed clearly, every single guessing game this entire video has walked through simply disappears. Here's how to protect yourself, starting with the very next bottle you buy. Check for a harvest date before you check the price. Favor single country origin over vague blend language. Run the fridge test on any bottle you're unsure about. Buy smaller bottles more frequently rather than one large jug that sits open for months, and store whatever you buy away from heat and light, in a cabinet, not beside the stove. None of this requires fear about your food. It requires reading past the 2 words extra virgin and understanding what they actually promise and what they don't. We started this video wondering which store sells the best olive oil. What you're leaving with is something more useful than a ranking. You now know how to read any bottle at any store for the rest of your life. A ranking goes stale the moment a supplier changes. Knowing how to check a harvest date, spot a vague blend claim, and run a 2-minute fridge test never does. Try the fridge test on the bottle in your own cabinet this week. Tell me which store surprised you most, and let me know whether you think Costco or a specialty shop deserves the real top spot. Next time you reach for that green bottle, you'll know exactly what you're actually buying.